everybody.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, it is. Welcome to episode 20 of Myths and Monsters, which I think is great that it's on Halloween.
I think so too. Like, I can't believe we've had that many.
I know.
Also, like, that's insane.
That's 20 months.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
That's a good chunk of time.
So, wow. So I'm drinking a Bloody Mary. It is Halloween morning.
Yeah, it's rather early.
Great way to start the Halloween. The Halloween.
The Halloween. I think this is a perfect start to the Halloween.
I agree. I did two Halloween monsters. What did you do?
I did myths and legends about the full moon.
Oh.
So, because, the full moon is always associated, I think, with Halloween.
I think so, too. You got to see the witches flying across the
and
moon.
The bats and the skeletal tree branches and stuff. So,
well, I guess I can go first. You want to go first?
You go first.
Okay. So I picked two Halloween monsters, and they come back from the days of when Samhain was celebrated as opposed to the more commercialized Halloween.
Right.
So the first one is the Pooka.
Pooka.
And it is October's original Halloween monster. And it terrified the Irish countryside, and they are shape-shifting, man-eating, demonic horse shapes.
Listen, why can't they just be fun Halloween things like today?
Well, there's actually controversy as to whether they were really man-eating or not. That was only one article that I found that said they were man-eating, and the other ones were like, oh, they're just kind of cute and mischievous.
Maybe there was like just one little group of people that were like, they're evil, and then like everybody else was like, chill.
Maybe they just ate those particular people, the families of those particular people, and nobody else.
Well, that would just be rude.
At any rate, the Pooka would prowl farmers' fields on Halloween, or back then it was Samhain, which is the last of the harvest festivals in pagan culture.
Right.
For the sole purpose of claiming an annual tribute. Samhain had a tradition that on the final day of the autumn harvest, which this is the third of the harvest festivals, that any crop not claimed by sunset had to be left in the fields as the, quote, Pooka's share, end quote. And this was a bribe for a safe year.
I see. So like, would they try to leave some? Like if they were like, oh, we're on track to get all of them, were they like, no.
We've got to leave some for the Pooka.
Got it.
So failure to offer the tribute left any farmer at the mercy of a ravenous beast.
Oh, I see. So they were definitely like, just leave some.
Yeah, this is for you. Please enjoy. The Pooka could assume many forms, both innocent and malign, stalking helpless Irish homes to claim the night that used to be its namesake. Yeah, apparently Halloween or Samhain was called Pooka's night or something. It was the original.
Oh,
yeah, very strange.
I've never heard that, I don't think.
Pooka is actually the Celtic word for goblin.
Goblin?
Yeah.
So are they like, did you mention what they looked like? Were they short?
They can be seen in the form of a horse, a dog, a rabbit, a goat, a goblin, or even an old man or beautiful woman, supposedly.
Well, that is just like everything, honestly.
Everything. They're totally shape-shifting, so they can be whatever they feel like that day. Traditionally, though, the Pooka is seen as a dark, sleek horse with a long mane and luminescent golden eyes.
Well, it sounds very pretty, but if I like go to pet it, is it going to eat me?
Well, in this form of the horse, it likes to take a rider, usually a drunkard, on a wild ride all night and then shake him off at the gray of the morning.
I think we got to look out then, Ma. I think we're both drunkards.
I think so too. This person, usually already heavily inebriated, is also under the spell of the Pooka and has no recollection of what happened.
Well, then how do they know it's a Pooka?
I don't know, but this often accounts for the people who have gotten blackout drunk. So,
but that's the thing. They're like, oh no, I'm so embarrassed that I'm blackout drunk. It was the Pooka.
It was the Pooka.
Did it.
The Pooka. I was under the Pooka spell.
Yeah.
The only man to ever successfully ride a Pooka was the High King of Ireland and founder of the O'Brien dynasty, or more commonly known as Brian Boru.
Brian Boru.
Brian managed to control the magic of the creature by using a special bridle that used 3 hairs of a Pooka's tail.
Like, did it have to be that Pooka's tail?
I don't think so. And that means the year before, somehow he was chasing around the Pooka trying to get 3.
Well, maybe he did it while he was blackout drunk.
That's it. That's what happened. His physical prowess meant that he was able to stay on the back of the Pooka until the poor exhausted Pooka surrendered to Brian.
Okay.
The king, Brian, forced it to agree to 2 promises. First, that it would no longer torment Christian people and ruin their property. And second, that it would never again attack an Irishman except for those who were drunk.
Well, isn't that okay? Listen, I was about to stereotype, and I'm still going to stereotype. Sorry, not sorry. But isn't that like every Irishman?
Don't do that when I'm taking a sip out of my drink and almost came out my nose.
Sorry to the Irish folks.
Hey, we have Irish blood in our veins. So.
True.
They have the power of human speech, and when inclined, can make great sport of those that they talk to, because they often embellish the truth.
Okay.
So it's known for its cunning and wile, as well as lies and deception. It is the archetype trickster, which I thought you would appreciate.
I do. That's great.
It's also been called a phantom fairy, and also a fertility spirit, since it has the power to create or destroy.
Oh, okay. Sure.
And in Ireland, the Pooka seems to be the most feared fairy, possibly because it appears only at night and it enjoys creating havoc and mischief. But there are disputes as to whether it actually eats humans or not.
Right. I mean, listen, if we go and look at like recent embellishments in urban fantasy about the Fae, probably eats people.
Probably so. Every county in Ireland has its very own Pooka.
Oh.
Yeah. They like open mountainous areas so that they can run free in their horse form, which apparently they like.
Do you think they have like a little Pooka like community where they're like, okay, you take this county, I'll take this county.
Do I have to take this county?
I don't want this county's too small. It's like, well, you're small too, George. Like, you know what I mean?
George. Many small mountainous lakes and springs in Ireland are often called Pooka Pools.
Pooka Pools.
Or Pooka, which means Pooka or demon hole.
Oh.
But during the Christianization of Ireland, some of the Pooka Pools were renamed to St. Patrick's Wells, which is a lot more boring than Pooka Pools, I think.
Well, listen, I don't think I'd want to go near a Pooka pool. Like it kind of sounds like a Puka pool.
Oh God.
I don't know.
Well, there's it's also spelled in different ways, like P with the U over at CA, which does look more like
Puka.
But also Pooka. It's spelled in a whole bunch of different ways.
Gotcha.
So that's the Pooka, the original Halloween monster.
I see. Okay.
There's also the Dulahan, which is also a monster that appears after harvest feasts, so was common on Samhain.
Yeah, I feel like that word tickles my brain. Like I've definitely, I think, read about it somewhere at some point in time.
Well, it was made famous in 1819 when Washington Irving borrowed this tale for his Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah, with Ichabod and all that jazz.
So, but rather than a headless rider and black steed with the hot sparks coming out of its hooves and the red eyes, the Dulahan was actually the Grim Reaper himself.
Oh.
So he carried a whip made from a human spine.
Classy.
And he was headless.
Yeah. Not nearly headless.
Yeah, not nearly headless Nick. Poor Nick didn't quite make it to Dulahan's status.
Yeah.
But he would ride foggy roads of Ireland carrying his own severed laughing head as a lantern.
Cute.
He is portrayed as either riding a black horse with red eyes or riding on a black carriage that's pulled by 6 black horses.
Oh, okay. Listen, I feel like the carriage is way more fancy. Like he should just stick with that one.
The carriage was made of coffins and tombstones and bones, indicating his evil intent to take innocent lives.
Sounds precious.
If the head screeched someone's name, that person dropped dead where they stood.
Oh, fun.
Maniacal cackles then echoed across the countryside as the charging rider disappeared into the fog with the collected soul.
Does he know everyone's name? Like as the Grim Reaper, do you think like he knows everyone's
Probably.
name and he just like picks one?
Maybe.
Or if he comes across them, then he yells their name.
Or was it, he went after bad people or the most innocent of people? How did he choose?
Right. Like, can he go into people's houses? I guess carriage won't fit in the house. It's bust down the door.
Yeah, good question. Maybe they have to be out on the road, and that's why.
That's what I was wondering. Like,
don't
if he comes
go out
across
on the road on Halloween. He's also believed to be a dark fairy. And so you ask, how did he lose his head?
Yeah, how did he lose his head? I definitely asked that.
Several theories. One was that he was a soldier in his previous life and that his head had been taken from him in battle, and that he roams the countryside searching for his head for all eternity.
Adorable. But he's got his jack-o'-lantern head?
Yeah, so yeah.
He like carries it around?
Yeah, maybe that was just a substitute until he can find his.
Fascinating.
Some stories suggest that he already has his head and that he rides with a darker purpose, believed to be so bitter about his own death that he searches for other souls to take with him to the afterlife. Maybe he's just lonely.
He might just be lonely. Also, I just remembered where I heard the term Dulahan. I mean, other than the fact that I read myth lists and like all that kind of stuff for writing and everything.
Yeah.
But I watched this anime and I can't remember what it's called right now, but it's about a Dulahan, and it's a girl and she rides a motorcycle. Her steed is a motorcycle.
That is the coolest
And her
thing.
head is a helmet.
See, this is exactly why myths and monsters exist, is so that we can take these myths and twist them up into our modern writing.
Yeah.
What a great way to twist the Dulahan story.
Super cool. I haven't seen it in a long time. I need to go back and watch it again, but very good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Be careful not to look at him, because if you look at him, you will be struck blind.
Oh, okay.
And he strikes you blind by whipping out your eyes with his whip, that one that's made of the human spine.
Listen, that takes precision. So like, honestly, sure, take him.
No.
If you can whip out someone's eyes, like why? Like sure.
Or
what can I do?
Throwing a basin of blood into their eyes, which can also blind you, apparently.
Well, that's less fancy.
The only thing that can frighten him is precious metal, which if you throw it on the ground in front of him, it causes his horse to stop, and I can just imagine it rearing up on its hind legs, and it turns and flees.
Huh.
So I'm going to leave you with a poem that Thomas Johnston Westrope wrote, or I guess he wrote it. It's in his book, The Folklore Survey of County Clare, from a long time ago.
Okay.
He rides his black steed through the countryside, and whenever he stops, a mortal dies. He is the angel of death and worthy of dread, dressed all in black and lacking a head. In his left hand is a spine that he'll use as a whip, in his right hand a scythe that will cut to the quick.
Well, he sounds adorable.
Yes. So two fun Halloween monsters for your Halloween today.
It'd be fun though, as if he's obviously traversing the countryside trying to find his head or whatever. Like, it'd be fun if the way that he killed his people was by taking their heads. Like, it's just like a little bit of poetic justice kind of thing. Kind of. But he does it to like innocence instead of, I don't know. I feel like,
lots of ways to twist up both of those. And did you ever see the movie, The Pooka? Or called Pooka?
I heard of it, I think, which is why I think it sounds familiar. I just didn't know what it was specifically.
Yeah, I never could get around to watching that one. It looks really cheesy, but maybe it's great. I don't know. I think it was on Huluween last year.
I think you're right. It looked very weird. I never watched it.
I never watched it either. So I was wondering if it was actually this Pooka story
or something else.
I don't know.
Interesting. I listened to this podcast called Lore.
Yeah, you told me about that one.
I'm pretty sure he covered pukas at one point, or maybe it was something else. Maybe it was like, puka's a type of like squirrel thing. I don't know. Puka just sounds very familiar.
Pika.
It's like a little squirrel thing.
Well, but isn't that also when you're like low on iron?
Oh. Listen, don't take any educational value from this podcast, you guys.
Yeah, we're not teachers by any means.
Not at all.
This is how rumors get started.
This is true. Listen, I just told them
and
not to take us at our face value. We just, we're potentially good at writing.
Potentially. Okay, what's
yeah.
your story? I want to
Myths
hear
and
your
legends
stories.
about the full moon.
I can't wait.
And it was very fun. So like I said, I think a lot of people associate a full moon or Halloween with a full moon.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went and looked up in the Farmer's Almanac, like how often that actually happens. How often does a full moon fall on Halloween? And so it's despite all the creative Halloween full moon pictures, you know, like we were talking about the witch across the full moon, like all that kind of stuff. A full moon occurring on Halloween is not a common occurrence and only happens every 18 to 19 years.
Didn't it happen in 2020?
Sure did.
I thought so, because I was like, yeah, 2020 with the pandemic and all that other crap that was going on. I thought that it was a full moon on Halloween.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It did. It happened in 2020. And of course it was 2020. Like why else? Like what other year would it be?
Right.
But yeah, so don't expect another one for quite a while. However,
like 18 years.
18 to 19 years. However, the new moon, which I was also reading about as I came across this research, the next new moon on Halloween, which is arguably scarier because it's pitch black at night, will happen in 2024.
Great. What does that bode for 2024?
Who knows?
Who knows?
We'll find out maybe, or maybe we'll,
maybe
we won't first.
I don't know.
So I've got like 7 or so myths and legends that I found about the full moon, and I just wanted to do these because they're fun little legends that we hear about all the time. You know, you hear about the hospital crazies and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So the first one is full moons make you crazy, and that's where the term lunatic comes from because it's the lunar stuff. But since ancient times, full moons have been associated with odd or insane behavior, including sleepwalking, suicide, illegal activity, fits of violence, and of course, transforming into werewolves.
Of course.
Because that's insanity.
Yeah, that's not very nice. I bet the werewolves don't like that to be associated with being insane.
They do have violent tendencies, though.
True.
Yeah.
Very true.
Indeed, the words lunacy and lunatic come from the Roman goddess of the moon, Luna, who was said to ride her silver chariot across the dark sky each night.
Wasn't the goddess of wasn't that Diana? Oh, that she's the goddess of the hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, you talk about it being a myth, but when I worked in the DA's office, I think I might have said this before on one of these episodes, the full moon really did call out the crazies.
Mm-hmm. My girlfriend's mom is a nurse, and she says, like, yeah, full moons, like they're insane.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
And yet all these statistics say, oh, it's not really a thing. I'm like, those of us who work with people know that it's a thing.
Well, and I was watching a TikTok, and one of them was like of a nurse or a doctor or whatever, and they were making fun of people who were like, it's not a real thing, the statistics say, and he was like, sure, whatever. And he's like, people are nuts on the full moon.
They are. It's crazy.
For thousands of years, doctors and mental health professionals believed in a strong connection between mania and the moon. Hippocrates, considered the father of modern medicine, wrote in the 5th century BC that one who is seized with terror, fright, and madness during the night is being visited by the goddess of the moon.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I would want to invite her for tea and have a chat.
Honestly, that'd be great.
I know, right?
So how did you become a goddess? Because
I think I deserve to be a goddess. I could learn from you.
We could get there. Yeah. In 18th century England, people on trial for murder could campaign for a lighter sentence on the grounds of lunacy if the crime occurred under a full moon.
I actually heard that.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, and I don't know if it's because I'm in the law and maybe we came across it that way, but
it's like a fun fact about
it was an actual defense.
Oh.
Yeah.
It was like it was the full moon, like I'm just crazy, like couldn't help myself.
Yeah.
And people won that way?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It was a thing.
That's insane. Meanwhile, psychiatric patients at London's Bethlehem Hospital were shackled and flogged as a preventative measure during certain lunar phases.
Yeah, I feel like that's going to prevent future problems.
No, I feel like that's going to make me more insane. Even today, despite studies discrediting the hypothesis, some people think full moons make everyone a little loony.
I mean, I'm not crazy.
Is it a full moon?
Is it a full moon? No, it's a real thing.
No, I think so too. Like just the stories that you hear from nurses and doctors.
Yeah.
And stuff. By the way, I got all this information from history.com. So
I love that site.
Yeah.
It's fun. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree. You hear all the stories about hospitals on full moon. Or it's whenever anybody's noticing a lot of uptick in crime and like all that kind of stuff. It's like, oh, it must be a full moon. Like even just the average Joe, like that's
Says
just a phrase. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we had to be duty DA in the DA's office. Everybody was assigned. I don't remember if it was just a day.
Yeah.
But whoever ended up having to do it on the full moon were like, oh
no.
And people called with crazy questions. The weirdest crimes happened.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a thing.
Just weird.
Yeah, it's a thing.
So the next legend that I have is that aliens inhabit the moon, which you hear about this, like the little green man on the moon. So in the 1820s, the Bavarian astronomer Franz von Paula Grüthusen claimed to have glimpsed entire cities on the moon with his telescope. He wrote that lunarians, quote unquote, who lived there had built sophisticated buildings, roads, and forts. Most of his colleagues scoffed at his assertion, but he eventually got a small lunar crater named after him.
Wow, I wonder what his telescope was like. I want one of those.
Know, right? Well, maybe it like injected acid into your eye or something. Sir William Herschel, a prominent British astronomer and composer, also thought that aliens lived on the moon and made regular observations about the progress of their construction progress. Like, what are they seeing?
I don't know. Maybe they dropped acid before they.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like the telescope itself just like was like, you have some LSD.
Maybe it was one of those kaleidoscopes.
Oh.
And I don't know.
Maybe.
Maybe.
In 1835, when the New York Sun published a series of fraudulent articles about the supposed existence of life on the moon, it falsely credited Herschel's son John, a famous astronomer in his own right, with the shocking discovery. So
poor guy.
I know.
He got strapped with being the crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which, I mean, you're saying, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
The next one is that the moon controls fertility.
Oh.
Which I had never heard before.
Yeah.
But perhaps because the menstrual and lunar cycles are similar in length.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I saw several articles that mentioned this as I was researching. Many early civilizations believed that the moon determined when women could become pregnant. This could explain why female moon deities, from the Chinese goddess, I'm going to butcher this, so sorry, Chang'e, to Mama Kila of the Incas, ignore my pronunciation, figure so prominently in mythologies from around the world. So like a lot of the gods and stuff that deal with the moon have to do with fertility. In the 1950s, the Czech doctor Eugene Jonas stumbled across an ancient Assyrian astrological text stating that women are fertile during certain phases of the moon. He based an entire family planning method on this hypothesis, telling his patients that they ovulated when the moon was in the same position as when they were born.
Oh, interesting.
How weird is that, right?
Quite a hypothesis there.
Right?
Yeah.
And I wonder if it just like happened to line up often enough that it was like, obviously, this is it.
Yeah.
According to another theory that persists to this day, full moons cause an uptick in births, flooding maternity wards with mothers-to-be in labor. Recent studies have turned up little statistical evidence for moon-induced baby booms, however, and most experts think any lunar effect on procreation is imagined. So
interesting. I had not heard that one.
Yeah, no, me neither. The next one is that the moon is a hollow spacecraft. Again, had not heard this, which is funny because my girlfriend and I played this video game called the Talos Principle.
Yeah.
And one of the Easter eggs in it is that you can turn the moon around, and it's just like half a moon, and the other half of it is like the symbol for the games of the devs.
Cool.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. So we have a joke that the moon's not real. But several science fiction books of the early 20th century, including H.G. Wells' The First Men in the Moon, take place within a hollow moon inhabited by aliens. In 1970, two Soviet scientists took this seemingly whimsical premise a step further, proposing that the moon is actually a shell-like alien spacecraft built by extraterrestrials with superior technology and intelligence.
But they can't break out of the Earth's orbit.
Right.
Or they don't want to for some reason.
They're building little construction things.
I saw a meme somewhere that, the aliens that fly past our planet lock their doors as they go past Earth.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
I don't know that
they like take one look at us and they're like
orbit around us for eternity.
Better not. According to astronomers, the moon, though admittedly enigmatic as far as celestial bodies go, couldn't maintain its mass and gravitational field if it did not have a dense core. So kind of debunks.
Yeah.
The next legend is we never really went to the moon. That's a
I
conspiracy
have heard
theory.
that
Yes.
conspiracy theory.
Despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, some people believe that the Apollo moon landings were faked by NASA, which used doctored photos, staged videos, and other ploys to dupe the public. Proponents of these hoax claims argue that technology was not advanced enough for astronauts to reach the moon and return home safely. They also point to an ostensible signs of studio trickery, including the fact that the American flag planted by the Apollo 11 crew in the lunar surface appeared to flutter in the vacuum of space. In 2002,
I've never seen pictures of it fluttering. I've just seen it static.
Well, and I also imagine like it's not going to be straight, like it's not going to be perfectly straight, like it's going to move with the when they took the picture, they probably put it in and whatever movement or whatever they caused could have made it flutter. I don't know.
Interesting.
In 2002, retired astronaut Buzz Aldrin, who became the second person to walk on the moon in 1969, grew so exasperated with one conspiracy theorist's accusation that he punched him in the face.
Maybe was it a full moon when he punched him in the face?
It might have been. He was not prosecuted. The next legend I have is that Nazis had a base on the moon.
Of course they did.
Of course they did. After World War II, rumors circulated that German astronauts had traveled to the moon and established a top secret facility there. Some even speculated that Adolf Hitler faked his own death, fled the planet, and lived the rest of his days in an underground lunar hideout. I think it's just very interesting, the things that people come up with.
I think so too. Too much time on their hands.
Maybe.
Isn't that a song?
Yeah, something. Yeah. Connections were also drawn between flying saucer sightings, including the famous incident near Roswell, New Mexico in 1947, with the Nazis' alleged UFO development program. These theories form the basis of the science fiction novel Rocket Ship Galileo, published by Robert A. Heinlein in 1947. So I thought that one was interesting.
That is interesting.
It was also kind of of course the Nazis had a base on the moon.
Those Nazis.
The next one is that a rabbit dwells on the moon.
A rabbit?
Yeah, I had never heard this one before. Intriguingly, legends from various traditions around the world, including Buddhism and Native American folklore, recount the tale of a rabbit that lives on the moon. This shared myth may reflect common interpretations of markings on the lunar surface, an alternate take on the fabled man in the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Shortly before Apollo 11 landed on the moon in 1969, Mission Control in Houston jokingly referred to the Chinese version of the story, telling the spaceship's crew, among the large headlines concerning Apollo this morning, there's one asking that you watch for a lovely girl with a big rabbit. Command module pilot Michael Collins replied, okay, we'll keep a close eye out for the bunny girl. And so that's that one. And those are all the legends that I found on the full moon.
I was going to ask if you had found the one about the green moon being cheese.
Oh, I did come across that one, but there was only like a sentence about it where people believe that it might be cheese. I'm not sure. They didn't have an explanation for it.
It must have been so long ago just because of the color.
The color, like it turned yellow sometimes, like if it was a supermoon, it's closer to the earth. It's usually got like a yellow orangish tint. I don't know.
That's
and
crazy.
It's got like the spots on it, like maybe like it looks like
Swiss
moldy cheese
or moldy cheese.
Yeah,
that
something
makes
like
more
that.
sense. Neat.
Yeah. So I thought those were fun. I think a lot of myths and legends can be tweaked and played with, or you can create your own based on myths that we've come up with as our, in our civilization. Like if you wanted to create one of your own myths for your books or whatever.
I mean, think about the fertility aspect of it. If you want to have a society, it could be a dystopian society, or it could be a sci-fi society where they have to somehow control population. And, maybe women are locked up during certain times of the moon's phases, or released on certain times. You could do all kinds of stuff with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Horrifying to fun.
Yeah. No, I think so too. And, because a lot of those range from, are you serious, to like, oh, like that is actually like a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I think it'd be very fun to play with.
I loved those.
Yeah.
Well, happy Halloween, you guys. Go out and have a great time today. We had our party last night, so that was fun. So yeah, happy, what did I call it? Samhain, happy Samhain, happy Halloween.
Happy Samhain, happy Halloween.
All right. See you next time.
See you next time.